Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing good. It's a Monday morning, so I would like to welcome all participants who have joined us for this webinar for ITL implementation success stories. We will wait for a couple of minutes more so more participants can join meanwhile. Okay, I can see many of people have joined us. Again, good morning, everyone. Myself, Pallavi from Novel Vista, and I'm your moderator and host for this webinar today. Today, we are going to have this amazing webinar on ITL implementation success stories. I hope my voice is clear. Sharda ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, Pallavi, I can. Am I audible, Pallavi?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like to request everyone that you can put your questions for Q&A round, and if you cannot hear us, you can use this chat option where you can put the questions and can reach us. So I would like to introduce Novel Vista. We are one of the largest training organization, and we are providing all these trainings and certifications since long time in industry. Right till now, we have trained more than 30,000 plus candidates till now with certificates, training, and practices. We are having 300 plus trainers who are associated with us. Since long time we are in this knowledge sharing activities, and webinar is one of those where we introduce our industry experts to our audience, and our experts are trainers and our experts who deliver such great sessions for us. So one of the session we are going to have on ITL implementation success stories. To get all the updates regarding our future webinars, you can simply WhatsApp us on this message to get all the notification of future webinar. So we have delivered 20 plus webinars till now from Novel Vista, and with your response, we are very happy that 15,000 plus participants have joined for this webinar, and we would like to request that you can share your feedback. How did you find the webinar? How it will be helpful for you? So this webinar's feedback you can share with your L&D and HR team. So we would be no, we would be having the pleasure to serve it in a more better way and to give more uh, amazing sessions in future. So introducing our speaker today, I would like to introduce our speaker, Ms. Sharda Prasadita, who is going to deliver our session on ITL implementation success stories. Ms. Sharda Prasadita is an ITSM evangelist independently working on implementing projects, working with customers to ensure enhanced CSAT, implementation of processes, and ensuring they are in sync with tools, executing the processes to ensure the organization walk the talk. She helps setting up SMOs and training the process owners, ensuring they are measured in well-defined KPIs. She also ensured in the past, she also worked in the past as an independent consultant with controllers towards service improvement at an organizational level. She also helped organizations to improve their service delivery, design, improve implemented ITL processes and ITSM based service delivery, implement SIAM and end-to-end assist management process. She also helps syncing the processes with the tools and train hand-on employees with till the processes are assimilated and become part of DNA. So Sharda ma'am, we would like to request you to initiate this webinar with all your great experience that you can share with our audience, and some of the best ITIL implementation stories that you have worked with and implemented in past. So welcome to the webinar, and we would like to request you to initiate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Pallavi. So let me share my screen. Okay. So we are on slide 3. Okay. So let me cover some of these broad steps from the ITL implementation perspective. In my experience, there have been times when a contract had not been signed and we started the implementation, and we were kind of beaten up for various unreasonable things. So before you actually start implementing it, go to slide 3, Pallavi. Don't yeah, just stay here. So if you don't have a contract, I don't think you should start off, because this contract is a single source of truth. It's a kind of an understanding between you and your customer. So do that. Identify the people who are supposed to be part of this workshop with you, and have a nice boot camp about what the customers background is all about, what is, which industry do they come from, what's the org chart, and what are their current financial scenarios, and have they acquired someone. So this boot camp is very essential, because you would otherwise end up going to the customer organization as a very ignorant person. After the boot camp, identify what are those processes that are in scope for you, and then you also need to freeze the documentation. The processes have to be documented, and the process documentation templates have to be frozen, so that you are aware of how to where to define all these, and these are done in sync with the customer too, because the customer also has to be aware that these are the templates you would prepare, you would be using. Now this process, ITIL process, and the prioritization of the processes, etc., also is what is, in some organizations where I worked, we used to call it process scoping document. That means you scope the processes so that you are very clear what you should do and what you should not do. Often the process scoping document need not be shared with the customer, but if you have agreed in your contract that you would share it, then go ahead and share it. The more you share, the more problems you get into. You need to understand the customer infrastructure, and what are their current areas of concern. That is very important, because your processes can cover and alleviate some of those pains. And then you need to set up discussions with some of those key personnel with who you have to interact, to get an idea of every process. For example, change management. Who are those people who are responsible for making changes, building changes in the current scenario, and how is it going to be in the future scenario? So imagine a picture where you have a customer organization, their IT you are going to take over and start supporting it. As part of the supporting, as part of the transition, you also are going to define the processes, and this is where I'm coming from. Okay, so complete your scoping document so that you're crystal clear as to what you're going to implement. And then you do a gap analysis of the existing processes. In one organization, someone promised the customer that we will submit gap analysis documents, and then I was badly bitten by that. And therefore, unless you have promised the customer that you will submit the gaps, for example, incident management is there. Customer may be following 1 to 10 steps, and you feel there are some gaps in the way he's executing his processes. That's where you document as part of your gap analysis. But then, unless you agreed contractually with the customer, do not share it. This is for more for your understanding as to do your job better. If you have not agreed to that, then do not give it, because the more you give, as I said, the more trouble you get into, because people who pay generally nitpick. So be careful. Go to the next slide, Pallavi. So after you do the gap analysis, yeah, no, Pallavi, you're on the wrong slide.
Give me a second.
Slide 4. Four. Slide 4, Pallavi.
Second, it's hang. Give me a second.
So while Pallavi is going to the right slide, what you need to do next is align your processes with the whatever are the existing tools. Now this is critical for the processes to be actually executed. You cannot just define a process and come out, because the tools will have to support it. So you will have to work shoulder to shoulder with the tools team. The tools team may come from your organization if you're a service provider, or it may be from the customer organization if he is asking you to use their tools. Either way, you have to work with them. So establish a good rapport with them. Ensure you have a good alignment between the software SOW contract or the contract, the process team, and the tools team. Often there is a lot of gap between these three, and that is where the failures start. So ensure the process team, the tools, and the Pallavi, I still see slide 8 only.
Fourth slide. Fourth
Sorry?
one. It's
Fourth
fourth
one,
one
yeah.
in presentation. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So do you want me to have it the next slide?
No, slide 4. Just stay on slide 4. And then you should start preparing the process documents, because now you have understood the background, you have understood the customer domain, you've understood who are the key people you should speak to, you know what tools are to be covered and how you are going to align your processes to the tools, what have you promised. Then start preparing the processes. So start writing down the process documents. You should every process that you have documented needs to have a sign off authority. Someone has to be signing off. Often what happens is, in your organization someone would sign off from the delivery side, and the customer side someone would be signing off. I would prefer only the customer sign off, because the delivery team would have to listen to you, the process consultant, if you advise them saying this is the best way to work. Post that, you ensure the process descriptions are detailed enough to cover RACI matrix, to cover the roles and responsibilities, to cover SLAs and KPIs, if that's what whatever you have contractually promised. Now be careful. Often I see a lot of enthusiasm in the process consultants who think that they can sermonize the delivery team into giving a lot of KPIs and SLAs, or a lot of KPIs, saying all these have to be measured, all these have to be submitted. If those are not what you have promised in your contract, don't give it, because you are unnecessarily going to get beaten up. So if you have promised, say, 10 reports out of your incident process, those 10 reports are the only ones you're supposed to write down in your process documents. So always at every step, go check your contract to see if you have promised and that's what you're delivering. Otherwise what happens is you just end up doing either more work or less. You give less than what you have promised, and later you'll have to suffer penalties. Finally, after you have documented a process, after you have understood the current scenario and you have put your best practices in place, once you've documented the process, first give a dry run to the delivery team, the team which is going to execute these processes. If they are okay, you'll have a lot of protests. Ultimately, you'll have to tell them what is the best practice, and then you'll have to rewrite to ensure they're also comfortable. Once they're happy, then make a dry run with the customer, and once the customer gives some feedback, come back, incorporate it, or have the courage to tell the customer that this is the best practice and this is the right one to do. Of course, I don't intend to tell you to pick up fights with your customers, but then you do need to have a conviction of your knowledge. If you're comfortable and you're strong in your knowledge, then you can always tell the customer this is the right way to work and this is not the right way to work. And then once the customer does that, give do a rework and a sign off. So Pallavi, can you go to the next slide? Let me know if
can you see the screen?
Yeah, just check. Let's check with the participants. Fine. So finally, now your process documents are ready, your contract is there, your tools are aligned to the processes, you have defined what reports to be generated, your process documentation has to be in sync with the steps that are followed in the tool. Once you have done all that, you have also established a service management office. That means the people who are going to actually own the processes, a change manager or a major incident manager, depending on what you have budgeted for. That I prefer calling them an SMO, service management office. So once you have the teams and the SMO, you start training them. The SMO needs specific specialized training. A change manager needs an entire training as well as his role specific training. As a change manager, what is that person supposed to do? Similarly, a capacity manager needs to understand what are those reports he or she is supposed to give every month, every quarter, every year, every half year. Where do what does he do with respect to changes in capacity? So a lot of these role specific trainings have to be given, along with the delivery teams need to be completely savvy of these processes because they are the ones who should follow them. Once those trainings are there, often repeated trainings have to be given so that no one is missed out. You have completed the transition process of defining or implementation of first levels of ITIL process. Post that, periodically you need to start doing ITIL audits and assessments to see the health of the process. So with this, I would want to go to the case studies. So can you go to the slide 6, Pallavi?
Yeah, can you see now?
And it's Namtai Electronics, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is a very peculiar case. Namtai is one of those electronic chip manufacturing companies based out of Shenzhen, China. This, fortunately or unfortunately, was my very first ITIL implementation. I was naive. The company was in what should I say? It's a chaotic organization. There were 3 buildings all adjacent to one another, and all the manufacturing used to happen there. The entire set of Namta Electronics was managed by 5-member IT team. They only speak Chinese, so you do not have any way of communicating with them. 1 or 2 of them knew rudimentary English, and they could understand only when you type, not when you speak. So this was a scenario. I was representing an organization called Infor, which is an ERP software manufacturer, and they were using our ERP software, and therefore we were also giving a support and implementing the ITIL process as part of this maintenance and support. So it's an AMS kind of an engagement, application managed services engagement, with ITIL thrown in. Now these 5-member team, they have said, okay, these 5 members can actually go back and you can rehire them and rebadge them to your organization. We don't want them. Now uh, if you can understand chaos, well, this organization was it. Now who were Namtai's customers? Who's who of the gaming electronic chip world? You may in Microsoft. Microsoft is Namtai's customer. So I mean, it is amazing the kind of clientele they have. You go to their lobby, you find all the huge big names across the globe as their customers. And this is in proper mainland China. And this was my very first ITIL implementation. So when I had visited, this ERP was running on IBM mainframe, and then the scenario was this 5-member team where the team who were supporting the entire suite of applications in Namtai. The way they would do is, okay, there were users all over these 3 buildings. Anyone had an issue, they would walk up to the main building, walk up to the floor where these 5 members were sitting, and then give a verbal complaint saying, okay, this feature or this transaction is not going through. Now the 5 members were playing a lot of favorites. If they like you, they will prioritize yours and do it off. If they don't like you, they'll push it to end of the day, or probably next day or the next day. So there was no structure there. There was no structured way of reporting issues there, and there was no way they had a track of what all issues they've received. That means you just orally complain, probably you sit beside that fellow and get it resolved. They would never note down anything, or if they note down probably a whiteboard, they would write it and wipe it off. So there is no database of those incidents that were recorded. So you can imagine the kind of confusion this organization would have. The same issue would get repeated 50 times probably in a week, but since there is no record of how you have resolved it, they would do the same thing again and again. And these out of these 5 guys, 1 or 2 were speaking absolutely elementary kind of English, and there were constant bickering among them. All of them wanted to be the big boss. This is it. None of them had any specific role. Now everyone can go and make a change to the application, and these changes often were clashing with each other. The change I was going to make is going to nullify the change you have made already. This is a chip manufacturing organization with huge IP, but they never had any backup of their designs. So they had huge amount of designs. They never had any backup of any of the stuff that they were creating. So this is a disaster actually waiting to happen. They were all sitting on a volcano. This kind of an organization, we had to take over their application support and maintenance along with those 5 members who were constantly fighting with each other. Go to the next slide, please, Pallavi. So now what they didn't have any service, any tool, any ITSM tool, no service desk. So first thing we had to do is we took along with us an expert on IBM mainframe, and that guy actually sat and prepared some forms through which people could log their issues. We stopped everyone from coming to the first floor of the Namtai main building because we didn't want people to barge in and start giving their complaints. We said you have to report it only through this tool, otherwise we are not going to resolve it. This itself raised a lot of angst and concern among all those Chinese employees. The second thing was, we said, okay, we are going to prioritize all the issues that are going to come. Business standstill will get a priority one. Priority one ticket will be resolved in probably 3 hours or 2 hours or 5 hours or whatever was the time we had decided internally, because they never had any benchmark against which we could compare. And then we went on like that. We went on prioritizing the issues. Again, you can imagine people, for everyone, everything is a priority one. So if you tell them what you have is not a priority one, you have a lot of angst. So we have to do a lot of internal organization change management with with our English and their rudimentary knowledge of English. So we always had one person who was playing translator, and it is, believe me, not an easy job. So this was my first ITIL implementation experience. I had to build a service desk, to build processes, to make those 5 people understand what I'm talking about, to educate them about ITIL, to you name it. I mean, yeah, every possible experience under the sun I could get through this one account. So we didn't have the entire ITIL V2 suite. Those days V2 was there. Incident, major incident, service request, and change management. These are the only 4 things we implemented. And over a period of time, everything stabilized and it started working. But huge lessons were learned out of this. I never knew how ITIL implementation would be, or I never had any kind of experience prior to that. And this was some 20-25 years ago. So what we realized is you should never allow the people to start writing mails to people. I mean, for example, I am part of IT and you are a user. You should never say write a mail to sharda.prasadita@xyz.com, because that goes into my personal mailbox and others won't be able to see. So we created a common mailbox and said, if you have issues, write to this. Do not write to individuals. Those mails will not be read and will not be entertained. So this is something my very first lesson was to stop people writing personal mails. Then second is working as a team is critical, is what I had realized then, because everyone was out to kill the other one. All those, just a 5-member team, but there were 5 different teams there within a 5-member team. So all were fighting with each other. So we gave huge, big, grand designations. We said chief change manager is one. So all these big designations made them happy. Basically, all of them were doing their own previous jobs. But then we also organized them as tiers. We said, because the most experienced fellow was also handling simple password reset requests. So we said, no, this won't do. You'll have to focus on other things. So we organized them as tiers. And then the fellow who was doing rudimentary tasks was also unhappy. So we had to compensate and give him some other things to make him feel happy. So this team dynamics is very important in this kind of in an ITIL implementation scenario. Also, we were not given a single document because they didn't have any documentation. So we stressed the importance of documentation, and this is the first lesson I learned, that every damn word you utter in from your mouth has to be documented. So including minutes of the meeting. They never had meetings, so we had periodic regular meetings, and including minutes of the meetings, training manuals, to FAQs, to SOPs, to preparation of huge amount of documentation is what I had learned through my very first experience there. And then structured processes, educating not just the IT team but the entire user base. So we conducted town halls across all the buildings and told them how they should actually log from now on. And people were unhappy thinking we were bureaucratic, because Chinese mentality is a lot similar to Indian mentality. So we had to tell them this is why it works, because they all thought we were imposing controls on them. So we told them there were people who are unhappy because their issues were not resolved, and those must have been critical issues. So we actually took out some examples and told them how it should be done. This was my very first experience, and believe me, the amount of lessons learned I had, this actually served me for my entire life. Can you go to slide 8, Pallavi? Okay. So if you are on slide 8, now that's another story altogether. This is called ENWL, Electricity Northwest Limited. It's a UK-based electricity supplier. They, of course, in UK, electricity is given to private suppliers, not like we have public, we are the government handling electricity supply. It's not like that in the UK. So this is one of the electricity suppliers in the northwestern region of UK. What they had done is, I was part of Wipro those days, and this was one of our customers. It's a greenfield kind of an environment, so we were building everything afresh there. They wanted 23 processes of ITIL V3 to be implemented, so there was no ambiguity there. Every process had to be implemented, and they hired an external consultant who was between us and the customer. This guy was very knowledgeable, and I mean, he and the internal stakeholder, service manager, and me, we were working together. Before I actually stepped into the scenario, some other group within Wipro was handling process design for this customer, and this is an application managed services kind of an organization. For to this customer and infrastructure managed services, we were handling the total outsourcing kind of deal, including the service desk there. So to this customer, some other group initially was responsible for drawing out processes. So they designed 2 or 3 processes, and there was a huge furor about it. The customer was unhappy. He said, "This is not what I want. This is not the process." And then finally, after 6 months of struggling with just one process, customer said, "Go call your lawyers. We want to cancel this deal." It had come to that stage, and I was on a long leave, rather 1-2 months leave at home, because my son was writing his board exams. I was unceremoniously pulled out of my leave, and my boss said, "Travel to UK." I said, "I cannot." So he said, "Okay, do whatever, but I want you to bail this out." So that's how this had started, and this is again an experience which had taught me everything I knew in ITIL. So I was sitting at home along with a team member. We were working 24 by 7. Both of us were sitting together, and till about 10 in the night, at 10 o'clock, the team member would go home. He would finish some part that I would assign to him. I would get up at 3 in the morning and complete the rest of it. So it was totally 24 by 7. So from where the customer said, "Call your lawyers," to my first discussions, I understood the customer's pain, because whatever we had drawn was what something the customer never understood. It was very complicated noodle bowl kind of process map. So I told the customer that, in an empathetic tone, that I understand your pain point and I'm going to alleviate it. See, that itself was a big brownie, because the customer was very happy with the tone. He said, "Fine, one person understood what my problem is, let's do it." First process we designed was incident management, and that was signed off in about 1 day. We took 1 day to design it, because we had all the background information. After that, and it's a green field, so you don't really need to understand how they are working currently. The tools also were implemented by us. So this the immediate sign off of incident management process within a day, where the previous set of people struggled for 6 months, was a huge boost. But this customer, the engagement started off with a little bit of suspicion, so we really had a constant amount of we had to be wary, we had to be careful. And the customer, if you know British customers, they mind their p's and q's. They want full stops, commas, capital letters, everything to be ship shape, and we had to be ultra careful. So they told me, this taught me how to do proper documentation. and use the Queen's English, so to say. So the success stories in this were, we implemented every single process of ITIL V3, and we identified owners for every single process. One person probably was owning 2-3 processes too, and we trained them. We gave them role specific trainings. Every process we defined had clear KPIs, owners, and every process was subject to initial acceptance criteria so that it would start working. So we had to prepare all those acceptance criteria also as part of the process implementation. And this worked very well because from day one the processes were actually working. They've all kicked off. There's nothing theory there. We also defined a hugely successful, very well organized service desk, and that was the good beginning we had. We built a successful rapport with the client ITIL team and the consultant. So at the end, initially it started off with some kind of suspicion. It so happened they have become friends now. We have, all three of us have gained such tremendous knowledge because of the experience sharing we had, and they understood that we know what we are talking about, and they really started respecting our word and trying to understand where we are coming from. And whenever we could not proceed with their issues, we also had to tell them, no, this won't work, which is what they accepted finally and started giving respect. Some lessons learned out of this was the customer, especially the service manager, randomly used to open the ITIL book and he would find some statements and he would say, I want this to be done. So it took a lot of stress and effort to explain to him that what is there in the textbook need not necessarily be there on the ground. So this is how it took a lot of coaxing, trying to explain to the customer, like, buddy, this is not how life works. And as the engagement started off in suspicion, they were it was really a tightrope walk, because if you know Indian service provider companies, the moment there is an issue with the customer, entire top management actually jumps on you. Every second day you have to give a report, status report to your bosses, and then the customer is actually waiting for you to fall down. So this really was a tightrope walk, and after some time I had to tell all the big bosses in my company to back off and give me space to work, otherwise I cannot work. And the customer side also, since they started with suspicion, every small step they used to put some hurdles, but then it all eased out over a period of time. We started working so beautifully well. Also, one of the lessons I learned is, somewhere, if you are sure, if you have the spine, if you think you know the subject, you should stand up and tell the customer he is wrong if he is really wrong. Of course, you need to cloak it properly, but then trying to do something which is not right because the customer has asked for it never works. So this is something everyone should kind of follow. So Pallavi, slide 9. Yeah, okay. Slide 9 is about another case study, which is a banking customer called Capital One. Capital One is one of those main big banking organizations spread all over the US, just like we have ICICIs or SBIs, etc. in India. This was an application managed services kind of an engagement. Again, I went through Wipro, and this was my first implementation via Wipro. It is organized. This customer is organized into 21 business units, I think 21 if I remember right. And then some of these business units had very structured set of processes and nice ITSM tools, etc. And some of them were shockingly bad. That means they had no documentation, they had no process, they had no nothing, no tools, nothing. And then the customer expected, so we asked them, what is expectation? They said, you tell us what. I said, you cannot have 21 business units running your own organization, so you should have one common process. So the challenge was that we had designed one common process which suits all these 21 business units, which were working like 21 customers, each having their own tool set. So we had to study the tools and tell them, let's use some common tools. So preparation of common processes, of course, because it's a financial organization, they are very rigid. So some of them we have to also call out the exceptions in each of these areas. And then we had to sell some of the tools internally that they had to all the other BUs, and sign off was to be obtained from 21 business unit heads. I mean, it's no joke to convince 21 people of what you have done. So, and to add to my sorrows, we had one or two of those business units heads was in favor of Accenture, which was the incumbent vendor. So from Accenture, this was given to Wipro, and this guy was an ex-Accenture guy sitting in the customer domain, and he was somehow vehemently against Wipro organization, or rather, he was for Accenture organization and didn't want. Okay, guys, those of you who are from Accenture, forgive me, nothing against Accenture, but I'm just talking about human mentality. Okay, so this was quite a funny scenario that no matter what you would propose, this guy would stand up and oppose just for the sake of opposition. And then we never had any documentation passed down to us from that organization, because it's a very hostile kind of a transition. Now imagine something was happening there, no one tells you what was happening, but you're supposed to design and make it work. To add to my problems, my transition manager, anything he could know, and they started the transition a little earlier because I could not go at that time. Anything that the customer asked, he promised said the our process team is going to do. So a lot of meaningless stuff was thrust on us, which was not even part of our job. And he said these people will do a gap assessment and provide you first huge amount of documentation. So the project plan you prepared never catered to preparation of gap assessment documentation. Now imagine you had to do two tasks with the time frame that you have allotted to one. So this was very agonizing and traumatic in several ways, that I have to first convince 21 people, half of them hostile to you, and then you have to give something which you are not responsible for, which you have no clue about, and then you are rushing against time because you have set aside some time, and then you had to in that same time you had to do double the amount of work. I don't know. Surprisingly, we could finish everything, and it really was a success because the release management, change management processes turned out to be so robust that the customer was very happy with what was written. So we centralized all the processes. That was one of the biggest success stories. And we studied all the tools, identified and recommended those which are logical. We also noted down exceptions among all the BUs, because this being financial organization, they had their own rigid exceptions. And then we laid down some rules and ensured all the 21 stakeholders fall in line. So ultimately, when I came out of Capital One, I felt I had won a big war. Go to next slide, please, Pallavi. So what are the lessons learned? Understand before you even step into the organization, understand what was promised to them, because it becomes so difficult otherwise to start delivering things on the fly, because you would have gone with some plan. This is something I learned only in this after coming to this account, because a lot of things were promised which were slowly getting revealed to us. So you should perhaps have a strong internal OLA with your own teams before you do this. Often you need to fight a lot of battles, because if you have common processes, no, I mean, this is common human psychology, that no three people will agree to the same thing. 21 people towing your line and the customer is becomes so difficult. So you should have the necessary assertiveness, aggressiveness to handle this. And this is something you should practice and think how you're going to tackle. Similarly, you should understand the politics also. Somewhere in ITIL version 2, I have, as part of the introduction, I remember reading that you should know the politics. So, politics are essential. The guys who are supporting Accenture, who are so against us, you have to win them over. So, which button should you push to win over? All these have to be planned much ahead with a cool head. You cannot afford to fight with the customer. At the same time, you should maintain your own assertiveness. So this also was a huge success story for me, and there were a lot of lessons learned. Okay, how are we doing for time, Pallavi?
Yes, we can go ahead with our another slide, and then we can follow it with our Q&A round.
Okay, go to slide 11, please. Okay, now we are on slide 11, which is one of my most favorite ITIL implementations, which is Volvo Cars. Volvo Cars is based out of Sweden, headquartered in Sweden, but Volvo Cars was acquired by some Chinese organization. So, and the way we took over is it had both application and infrastructure managed services, and I was representing Tech Mahindra as a process consultant at that time. Volvo Cars, the organization or whose applications and infrastructure that we took over, was running out of 49 different countries across the globe, and it had some 64, 74 kind of plants. So whatever you design has to be applicable to all these different countries across different time zones. And they wanted us to implement entire ITIL V2 suite of processes. So it's not V3 here, they wanted V2 processes. The beautiful thing here was even the tools were supposed to be implemented by us, and my organization promised some 12 tools that the customer bought and which we were supposed to implement. Most of these tools were going to help us help the ITSM processes too. So there is a lot of sync between these tools and the processes. And one of the good things about this was the IMS head of Volvo Cars was an ITIL service manager, expert, certified person. So he understood where we were coming from, and he was all empathy, and he supported every move we made. And therefore, since he's so knowledgeable, he understood the meaning behind the processes that we have designed, and he really appreciated every and was so free with his generosity and wonderful compliments. So this account moved so smoothly for us. Now nothing moves smoothly in life. We had issues with our internal tools team. These 12 tools that were implemented sorry were to be implemented by our internal tools team. What I realized at that point in time, you need to okay, I'll come to that. So what was a success here? Every process was designed so easily accepted by the customer and signed off so quickly. And the customer, the budget approval was given to put in place 12 member service management office. So it was a huge SMO, and we had given role specific trainings to all 12 of them. Since we were covering 49 countries, different time zones, we had to give a lot of trainings to cover all these processes, and these were repeatedly we had to give, because 49 countries, different sets of users, any point of time some won't be available, and therefore we had to repeat these trainings again and again. So preparation of training plan itself was a massive exercise for us. This organization had a very they were very strong on having a huge knowledge management process in place, and therefore we had to design a robust knowledge management process with good amount of tools. This was so beautifully designed that I myself enjoyed being part of that process. S- and then the icing on the cake was building a CMDB. Now, those of you who implemented CMDB would realize CMDB design and implementation itself is a huge art and a science. You would enjoy it a lot if you know how to start, where to start, and this is it's so scientific and beautiful in nature. So those of you who have not implemented CMDB in your lifetimes, perhaps you should put your hand into that and start implementing it. It's fun, but it's tough. So in this organization, we also had to do CMDB implementation. Now, have you realized what CMDB implementation would mean? That means every single asset that is spread across the organization, that is spread across these 49 countries, has to be identified and fed into the database. So every asset has to have a unique number, owner, and that asset, everyone should know where it is present, and it should be live and kicking. That means every now and then you should be able to discover it. This data has to be fed into your CMDB. So the amount of data that you collect is massive, and you need to have discovery tools in place. You also need to do manual discovery. So this itself is a huge project, and therefore the CMDB implementation uh, as I said, it's a huge project, and we also had started. Some of the lessons I learned out of this is, while the process designs and documents in line with the tools were all good, because the customer was very cooperative and we had got good knowledge. Even the incumbent vendor, I managed to make some friends with them, so we had good amount of inputs, and the customers willing to take all our suggestions and appreciated the efforts that were going in and wrote beautiful mails congratulating. What was the issue for us was the internal tools team. So they were changing their project plans every second day, and therefore the way you have planned to, say for example, implement change management with all the approvals etc in the tool, and your sign off date and your go live date would never coincide with this theirs, because they went on changing the dates. And if you planned for your change management module process to be live today, the tool was ready only after 2 months. So no matter how much in sync you were to start with, if they go on changing plans, your entire process plan would go haywire. This is something one has to be very careful, and you should have a tight grip over your tools. So this is something one has to be very careful about, because without tools your process has no meaning at all. And midway, someone was trying to give the tools team also to me. So you should be upfront clear what your roles and responsibilities are. Since the tools team were failing in implementing, they were not meeting their deadlines, they were going on postponing it, and whatever they had done was rudimentary. The entire burden fell on the process team. So someone suddenly in between, I was also asked to take over the entire tools team, which of course I had to put my foot down, because it was too late to start planning then. So this is something you have to be very careful, and this gave a lot of bad angst to me and the entire team, because of failure to deliver by one more team. So this handshake and the tools team that works according to your plan and their plan too is very essential. No, nothing against the team, they were all set of youngsters, but somehow I realized here that probably the tools and the process team, if they're part of one, it would work much more well. So maybe this is just food for thought for the later process implementations. Since we are talking about CMDB implementation, it means discovery. So one of the lessons I learned was, normally what the customer would do is hand over one Excel sheet saying these are all my assets. Never ever trust those Excel sheets unless you physically verify through your discovery that each of these assets is traceable. It's always not possible to trace all those 100% of assets, but still somewhere you should have a properly organized physical verification supplemented by your discovery to ensure you have maximum coverage of all assets, so that your baseline is ready, and that baseline is ready to be signed by your customer. This, I mean, of all the processes that are implemented, I think this is the most critical and most tough part. So do that if you're implementing the CMDB too, because defining a process around it is your responsibility. Discovery, implementation, etc. also have to be something that you have to have a huge stake in. Similarly, country by country, multi-country organizations, how are you going to define it? They may have some bad practices, some good practices. How are you going to discover all those assets? Are you going to have hands and feet support, or are you going to rely on purely discovery? So these are all very strategic and tough level management discussions and decisions. So you would have to pay a lot of attention to those. Uh, so some of the things that I really learned was this implementation of the CMDB, because which I felt taught me a lot too in the process, that physical verification is not so easy unless you have people physically present, or you should have your buy-in from your customer who will identify a human being for you in that country to actually verify. There are often things thrown around in people's desks, especially laptops and handheld devices, etc. How are you going to trace those? So all this becomes very, very critical. In my last session, I covered ITAM. So some parts of it I try to address in my ITAM session too. So Volvo Cars is one of my best implementations too, but for some bitter experiences with our internal tools team, but nevertheless it worked really well. So that's all I have for today. Pallavi, last slide is my mail ID if people want to write anything. So if people have any
Well,
questions, yeah,
yeah, it's showing blank, so you can address people with your mail ID so they can contact you,
yeah,
and I'm sure it will be helpful for them.
okay. So I hope people could hear and they have.
Yes,
Okay,
so you can tell them their mail ID. So we will have Q&A round. So people, because of short timing, we will be having 2 to 3 questions that you can put the questions. So we will be going with the Q&A round, and rest of the questions we will be giving you answer by Sharda ma'am through mail, as we are running out of time. So we will be taking 2 to 3 questions as of now.
Okay, did you come across any project where the managed services team wanted to run their department as PNL? I don't understand what you're saying, but generally, those who manage services from a service provider organization do run as PNL organizations only. I don't know. I hope that answers your question. Anyone else has any question? I see a lot of comments on slides not changing, slides not seen. I hope that problem was rectified while I was talking.
Yes, we
What
do
would
have some questions.
Yeah, what would be some KPIs for an in-house ITIL based incident management project? See, typically, I would say all the ones that the ITIL textbook talks about are fine, but you need to be practical here. I would say, why do you keep so many issues in pending? So, some pending issues related KPIs are something I would want, because that lead to a lot of mistrust from the customer on your organization. Similarly, how many have been reopened? Because reopened means you have not provided the right resolution. Have you met the SLAs? Of course, that's critical for you also to meet. So some of these key ones are the ones that you should think of. Don't be over ambitious and define 100 KPIs which you cannot meet, or you'll kill yourselves in delivering reports on those. Okay, what are the processes you design and implement as part of ITIL incident management? These are the processes which has very less scope of modification. Well, I don't understand what Swapnil was asking, but still, service desk implementation and associated incident management are critical when you're talking about just incident management. Similarly, service incidents and requests are different. Therefore, the service desk has to be taught to differentiate those, and therefore, request fulfillment also is essential, because you need to have those workflows built in your service desk. So according to me, these two from a service desk point of view are critical. This is about from Swapnil. Simi was asking, what tool would you recommend for an IT service management project? There are a lot of tools in the market. My favorite is ServiceNow, but then you have HP Service Center, HP Service Manager. You have so many other tools in the market. Even Manage Engine does a reasonably okay job, though it's a low budget kind of a tool. If you can have it, depends on your budget. If you have the budget, go in for ServiceNow. Okay, some Amrik Singh was saying this is all about. Okay, my mail ID, the last slide, it's displayed Amrik, sharda.prasadita@gmail.com. See, what I was talking about is all processes, not just incident. It's incident, problem, change, capacity, every process, including implementation of the CMDB and the SSCM process associated with that. Whose role is critical? Change manager, incident manager. Major incident manager is responsible for major incidents or critical incidents, but he has to work hand in hand with the change manager to implement those critical changes. I hope I answered your question, Anil. What are the main challenges faced in change management process? Change management process itself is a challenge. Process changes not approved, people implementing it, everyone given access to production so that they make a mess of it. Failed changes. Some of these are unapproved, unauthorized changes. So people not having any respect to the process. Suppose I say today you have to submit a change request, and on Friday we will have a camp. People don't have any respect for the dates or the times you've given, and they start submitting change requests on the day of the camp. These are some of the violators, and I really do not like to entertain those. Someone saying, is there any tech savvy person who understand what? I don't understand this question, because all of us, if you're an ITIL consultant, if you are not tech savvy but purely coming from some BA history kind of a background, I feel this not for you. You do need to be tech savvy to be a smart process consultant. This is my personal opinion. Nowhere it says that, but my personal opinion is the more you know technology, the more you are tech savvy, the better your process design would be. I think this question is for you, Pallavi. Someone is asking, do you conduct ITIL basic course and certification? I'm working as senior manager.
Yes.
Yeah, so probably you could
All right.
answer that.
Yes, so thank you so much, ma'am, for conducting this Q&A round. I guess we had decided to go with 2 to 3 questions, but we can say, right, we have answered almost every question. So we have done with the Q&A round very well. Thank you so much for part of this webinar and to deliver this. And it was pleasure to have you and got to know like some of the best ITIL implementation stories and strategies that you have shared with us. So it's a pleasure to have you as a one of the best leader like you to as I have a speaker. So thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. And it's with a pleasure I would like to inform to all our audience as Novel Vista has trained and certified more than 10,000 plus leaders till now globally, and we have trained people for ITIL managing professionals, ITIL foundation, ITIL practitioners. So yes, we do train and certified people in this training and certification. So you can simply message on this WhatsApp number for more details, even regarding the certification or any training offering by Novel Vista.
Yeah, thank you, Pallavi. Thanks, everyone. Any questions? Feel free to write. Thank you.
Yes, so we would like to request all our participants who have joined us, please share your feedback. So it will be quite, encouraging and motivating thing to have a feedback from you. If you cannot directly drop us mail, you can submit your feedback to your L&D team or HR team. So we will be keep engaging you for all such great webinars that we deliver by Novel Vista. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pallavi.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.